You tried. You actually tried. Not once, not twice. You went back again and again with everything you had. You changed your routine. You read the books. You watched the videos. You followed the advice. You pushed through the days when you didn't feel like it. You pushed through the weeks when nothing seemed to move. You gave it time. You gave it effort. You gave it your mornings, your evenings, and sometimes your sleep. And still, nothing changed. Or at least, not enough. I want you to sit with that for a moment. Not to dwell in it, not to punish yourself with it, but to actually feel the weight of it honestly. Because I think most people around you told you to just keep going, to stay positive, to trust the process, and maybe you did. Maybe you kept going far longer than most people would have. Maybe you stayed positive so many times that you ran out of ways to convince yourself. And maybe you trusted a process that never gave you what it promised. That is a specific kind of exhaustion. It is not laziness. It is not weakness. It is the exhaustion of someone who gave something real and received very little in return. And I am not going to pretend that is easy. I am not going to stand here and tell you it doesn't hurt. Because it does. It is supposed to hurt. Effort without result is one of the hardest human experiences there is. So, let me ask you something quietly. What exactly did you try? Not to challenge you, not to make you feel small, but genuinely, what were you doing? Because here's what I have noticed after watching people struggle through this, including myself. Most of the time, when someone says they tried everything, what they actually tried was many different things. Quickly, without patience, without measurement, without a clear direction. They moved from method to method, searching for the one that would finally work. And every time something didn't produce fast results, they moved on and tried the next thing, and the next, and the next. That is not persistence. I know it feels like persistence. It looks like effort from the outside. It feels like hustle from the inside. But what it actually is scattered energy. And scattered energy does not build anything. It only exhausts the person carrying it. Think about water. Water is one of the softest substances on Earth. But given enough time and a consistent direction, water cuts through stone. Not because it is powerful, not because it is hard, but because it keeps moving in the same direction over and over without stopping. Now imagine that same water changing direction every few days, trying a new path, going left, then right, then backward, then forward. It would never cut through anything. It would just spread and eventually evaporate. That is what unfocused effort does. It spreads. And then it disappears. Now, I want to be careful here, because I am not telling you that you were lazy. I am not telling you that you didn't work hard enough. Some of you worked incredibly hard. Some of you genuinely gave everything you could, and that matters. That effort was real. But here is the difficult truth that no one likes to hear. Effort alone is not enough. The direction of the effort matters just as much as the effort itself. You can run as fast as you want. But if you are running in the wrong direction, you are only getting further from where you need to be. And this is where most people get stuck. Not because they refuse to work, but because they confuse movement with progress. They confuse being busy with being productive. They confuse trying many things with being strategic. And the difference between those two realities is the difference between a person who keeps failing and a person who eventually succeeds. Let me paint two pictures for you. The first person wakes up frustrated. They look at where they are and compare it to where they want to be. The gap feels enormous. So they react emotionally. They find a new plan. They throw themselves into it with everything they have for 2 weeks. It starts to feel good. There is momentum. There is hope. And then it slows down. The results plateau, the frustration returns, and they begin to wonder if this approach is even the right one. So they look for something better, something faster, something that actually works. And the cycle begins again, month after month, year after year. The effort is real, but the position barely changes. The second person wakes up frustrated too. The same gap exists, the same pain is there. But this person does something different. They slow down, not because they are giving up, but because they understand that speed without direction is dangerous. They ask themselves honestly, what is actually working? What is not? Where am I spending my energy and what is it producing? And then they make a decision. One direction, one focus, one consistent effort over a long period of time. They do not abandon it when results are slow. They analyze it, they adjust it, they refine it, they track it, and slowly, almost invisibly at first, things begin to shift. The second person is not more talented. They are not more gifted. They are not luckier. They are simply more disciplined in their thinking. And that discipline is available to anyone, including you. So let us talk about what actually needs to change. The first thing is focus. Not motivation, not enthusiasm. Focus. Because motivation is temporary. It comes and goes with your mood and your circumstances. But focus is a choice you make regardless of how you feel. When you decide that you are going to put your energy into one direction consistently, and you protect that decision from distraction and doubt, that is when things start to move. You do not need to try everything. You need to find one thing that is aligned with where you want to go, and pursue it with discipline. The second thing is consistency, not intensity. Consistency. This is perhaps the most misunderstood principle in self-improvement. People believe that results come from extreme effort, from overworking, from pushing until something breaks, and sometimes that is needed. But more often, results come from the boring, unglamorous, deeply unsexy act of showing up every single day and doing the work, even when you don't feel like it, even when the progress is invisible. Even when no one is watching and no one is clapping, especially then. Small, consistent actions compound over time in ways that feel almost impossible to believe when you are in the middle of them. The person who practices 1 hour every day for a year will almost always outperform the person who practices 10 hours a day for 2 weeks and then stops. Not because the first person tried harder, but because the first person showed up longer. The third thing is self-awareness. You have to be honest with yourself. Deeply, painfully honest. Not self-critical, not harsh, but honest. Because if you cannot accurately see where you are, you cannot accurately plan where you need to go. You need to ask yourself real questions. Where am I actually spending my time? Are the methods I am using actually proven to work, or do they just feel comfortable? Am I measuring my progress, or am I just hoping? Am I learning from my mistakes, or am I repeating them with slightly different details? That last question is important, because failure is not the problem. Unexamined failure is the problem. When you fail, and you simply try harder without understanding why you failed, you are almost guaranteed to fail again. But when you fail, and you sit down quietly and ask, what happened here? What did I miss? What would I do differently? That failure becomes information. It becomes data. It becomes the foundation of a better approach. This is what experienced people understand that beginners do not. Every failure is a lesson, but only if you are willing to read it carefully. And I want to say something about patience, because I think it is one of the most underestimated qualities in this entire conversation. We live in a world that celebrates speed, fast results, overnight success, shortcuts. And because of that, most people have a deeply distorted sense of how long real progress actually takes. They expect results in days that require months. They expect months of work to produce years of outcome, and when the timeline doesn't match the expectation, they conclude that something is wrong, that the method is broken, that they are broken. But nothing is broken. The timeline is just honest, and the expectation was not. Real change is slow. Real skill development is slow. Real transformation of habits, of thinking, of results. It is slow, and it is non-linear, and it is messy. There will be weeks of progress followed by weeks of stagnation. There will be moments of clarity followed by moments of deep confusion. There will be times when it looks like nothing is working, even though everything you are doing is exactly right. And in those moments, the only thing that separates the people who eventually succeed from the people who eventually quit is the willingness to keep going without immediate proof that it is working. You have to stop treating failure as evidence that you are incapable and start treating it as information about your current approach. Those are two completely different relationships with failure, and the one you choose will determine everything about what comes next. Because here is what I know about people who eventually succeed at hard things. They are almost never the most talented people in the room. They are almost never the luckiest. They are almost never the ones who had the easiest path or the most resources or the most favorable circumstances. What they have, almost without exception, is this. They are the ones who stayed long enough to get it right. They are the ones who failed more times than everyone else and kept going anyway. Not out of stubbornness, not out of arrogance, but out of a quiet, disciplined belief that if they kept learning, kept adjusting, kept showing up, the results would eventually come. And they were right. So I am going to leave you with this. Stop trying everything. That era is over. It has not served you. It has kept you busy, but not better. It has kept you moving, but not forward. And you deserve more than that. You deserve the clarity that comes from choosing one direction and committing to it fully. You deserve the deep satisfaction that comes from consistent daily effort that compounds over time. You deserve the honest, grounded confidence that is built not from hype or affirmation, but from actually doing the work and watching it produce real results. You do not need to try everything. You need to do the right things consistently, over time, with honesty about where you are and patience about how long it takes. You need to measure what is working and release what is not. You need to build a system instead of chasing feelings. You need to trust the process, not blindly, but intelligently, because you have examined it and chosen it deliberately. That is how this works. Not dramatically, not overnight, but slowly and honestly, and with more patience than you think you have right now. You have not failed because you are not capable. You have not failed because the goal is impossible. You have not failed because you are not enough. You are here. You are listening. You are still in the room. And that means something. That means you have not given up on yourself yet. And that is the only foundation you need to begin again. Differently this time. Smarter this time. With less noise and more direction. With less reaction and more discipline. With less hope for shortcuts and more respect for the process. You tried everything. Now, try the right thing. Consistently. Comment below. I will adapt and improve. Share.